Krishna Chaitanya. Okay, we are live. We got more people joining us. Okay, here we go. Good to see everybody. And what we're going to do is chant in the beginning, as we usually do. So I'm trying to find something. All right. I'll find it later. Jaya Randamadova Jaya Kunjamiyari Jaya Randamadova Jaya Kunjamiyari Vichana Palapa Jaya Kirivaroda Vichana Palapa Jaya Girivaroda Jaya Girivaroda Yasoda Nandana Jaya Braja Jana Yasoda Nandana Jaya Braja Jana Yamuna Tira Panachari Raya Kunjabi Raya Kunjabi Yamuna Tira Panachari Raya Kunjabi Jaya Kunjabihari Vichana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradari Girivaradari Vichana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradari Yasoda Nandana Jaya Braja Jana Ranjana Yasoda Nandana Jaya Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Banachari Daya Kunjabi Daya Kunjabiyari Yamuna Tira Banachari Daya Kunjabiyari Jaya Kunjabiyari Jaya Randamadova Jaya Kunjabiyari Jaya Randamadova Jaya Kunjabihari Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paramacharya Also Tada Satashi Shimad His Divine Grace Abhaya Charananda Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Anantakoti Vaishnav Vrind ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shidwaita Gadadha Shivasati Gaur Bhaktavind ki jai. Shri Shri Radhakrishna Gopikapanath Shyam Kund Radhakunda Giri Govardhan ki jai. Vrindavanam ki jai. Maturanam ki jai. Jagadasami ki jai. Yamunamai ki jai. Shrimati Talasi Devi ki jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrindi ki jai. Go Premananda Hari 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 Bol. All glorious the assembled devotees. All glorious the assembled devotees. All glorious the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru Ad Gauranga Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Go Premananda Hari Hari Bol. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namadi Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharane Nivashesha Shunyavadi Paschacha Deja Tarane. So, Omagana Timidanda Shah Gananjana Shalakaya Jaksuram Meditam Yena Tasmai Shigurave Namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So we're going to continue reading from the Sri Caitanya Caritamrta, written by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, under the instruction of Srila Raghunath Das Goswami, about Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's philosophy and pastimes. So reading from the 7th chapter of the Adi Lila, and we're going to start reading from text 161, and most likely we are going to finish this chapter today. There's only a few texts left in this chapter, so. All right, yeah, there was a discussion I had before we start, a little internet discussion with Prime Govinda today about whether Subhadra was actually one of Devaki's children or some other wife of Vasudeva. So there's two different things. In one verse in the Bhagavatam, it says that Devaki gave birth, more or less, to Subhadra, and then you have Prabhupada's conversation where Prabhupada said that Subhadra was actually born from another wife of Vasudeva, and Vasudeva had 16 wives. So, whatever. In any case, she was Krishna's sister. That's the important thing. Krishna's sister, and she is Yogamaya. And she was married to Arjuna, who was Krishna's dear friend. And she gave birth to Abhimanyu. And Abhimanyu fought in the Battle of Kurukshetra when he was 16 years old. And he understood how to enter the chakra formation, but he didn't know how to get out. And his father wasn't around. And as a result, he got trapped in this chakra formation that the other party, the Kurus, had actually arranged. And he was surrounded. And they attacked him in a very unfair fashion. They all ganged up on him and killed him. And Arjuna was so upset with this whole thing. Of course, he blamed Jayadratha, and he vowed to kill Jayadratha the next day. And Krishna had to arrange for the sun to apparently set. And then Arjuna was able to kill Jayadratha and arrange for Jayadratha's head to be transported to the lap of Jayadratha's father, who had the benediction that whoever caused the son's head to fall to the ground would die. So Jayadratha's father died instead of Arjuna. Anyway, little Mahabharata stuff there for you. Okay, anyway. Yes, the conclusion is that Subhadra was Yogamaya. And whether she was born from the womb of Devaki or from another wife. I mean, sometimes you could say that so-and-so is someone's son or someone's daughter because they happen to be a co-wife of someone else or sister of someone else. I mean, you have these family relationships too. I mean, I don't know what it's like to have 16 wives. don't. And so, obviously everybody would consider everyone else to be everyone else's son or daughter. I mean, that's just the way it is. And actually, um, you have Dhritarashtra should have considered his brother's children to be his children. And that was instead, in the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, he says, do you know, he actually refers to the sons of Pandu and my sons as separate persons, as separate categories, sorry. Of course, they're obviously separate persons, as a separate category. And this actually indicates his mind of envy. So in the Vedic system, I mean, so also it's very interesting when you go into a village, the original Vedic system, that everybody happens to be everybody else's cousin or brother. Many times I've been introduced to people and someone says, here is my brother, or here is my cousin. I said, wow, what relationship are they to you? And the person will say, well, we're from the same village. So, anyway, whatever. All I know is Subhadra accompanied Jagannath and Baladev in the Rath Yatra ceremony. So that's all I know. All I know is, actually, I don't even know Subhadra. All I know is Mahamaya, who's giving me so much trouble with Adhyatmic, Adhibodic, and Adhidaivik miseries. If you don't know what that is, miseries from the material energy in general, miseries from other living devotees, other living entities, sorry about that one, and miseries, that was a deliberate joke, and miseries from the body and mind. Just like sometimes we experience something, I was actually thinking about that today, that sometimes we eat something that our body doesn't agree with. I mean, for example, I don't know if I should say this, but anyway, so this morning, someone gave me something that was very tasty. It was a Didi remnant. And I ate it, and then I got a headache because it was fried and salty. So, anyway, so that's the Adhyatmic misery. Even though we'd like to eat things that are tasty, sometimes we can't eat things that are tasty, things that we'd like to do, because of the miseries coming from the body and the mind. So, all I know, I don't know Subhadra, all I know is Durga Devi and what is it? Durga and what else? And Yamaraj. Durga, Yamaraj, and the Yamadutas. They're those who I know the best. So, anyway. Ahani bhutani gachantiya Himalayam. What is that statement? The most wonderful thing is that we see everyone die. And we think, what? Not me. That's amazing. Just like I've been there at the bedside of so many people. I mean, really a lot of people. Because when you get to be my age, you see people pass away. I mean, literally, I've been there right when they leave the body. And I'm thinking, this is actually the amazing thing. It's not going to happen to me. That I will just always be around, watching everyone else pass away. But I will not. Well, guess what? It will happen to me. Hani bhutani gachantiya Himalayam. That's a statement from the Mahabharata. In the discussion between Yudhisthira Maharaj and Yamaraj. What is the most wonderful thing? The most wonderful thing is that we see everybody go to Yamaraj or to death. And we think, not me. But who knows for who the bell tolls? It tolls for thee. Ding, ding, ding. Anyway, on that happy note, we will go on to the Caitanya Charitamrta. Don't worry. I mean, it's a dangerous world out there. Dangerous world. But we can take hope in the fact that we are eternal. We are just inhabiting this body, and we've been in so many bodies before, but we are eternal. We're not going to die. We are deathless. Okay. Basic philosophy for all of you Prabhus and Prabhis, and what else are you? So let's go on to the Chaitanya Charitamrta. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhaktavrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhaktavrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhaktavrinda. And here we go. Okay, give me a second to fix this up. Uh-oh. I made it disappear. No, there it is again. Give me 1 second. All right. Let's see. What's happening here? Oh, I see. All right. 1 second. Here we go. Text 161. Ratrindivase lokera shuni kolahala Varanasi chari prabhu aila nilachala. Because the city of Varanasi was always full of tumultuous crowds. Tumultuous, those of you who don't know what that word means, it means a lot, and it means noisy and crowded. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, after sending Sanatan to Vrindavan, returned to Jagannath Puri. E Lila kahibeya gave vistara kariha Sangshepe kahila nihan prasanga paya. I have here given a brief account of these pastimes of Lord Chaitanya, but later I shall describe them in an extensive way. So as we get into the Majja Lila and the Ancha Lila, we'll hear more descriptions and more details of these pastimes. E Panchatattva Rupe Shri Krishna Chaitanya Krishna Nama Prema Diya. Oops. Too high. Vishwa Kaila Danya. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates of the Panchatattva distributed the holy name of the Lord to invoke love of God throughout the universe, and thus the entire universe was thankful. Prabhupada explains that here it is said that Lord Chaitanya made the entire... Let me turn off this computer, it's too noisy. Made the entire universe thankful to him for propagating the Sankirtan movement with his associates. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has already sanctified the entire universe. Give me 1 second. I'll adjust something here. Okay. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has already sanctified the entire universe by his presence 500 years ago, and therefore anyone who attempts to serve Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sincerely by following in his footsteps and following the instructions of the Acharyas will successfully be able to preach the holy names of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra all over the universe. There are some foolish critics who say that Europeans and Americans cannot be offered sannyasa, but here we find that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to preach the Sankirtan movement all over the universe. For preaching work, sannyasis are essential. These critics think that only Indians or Hindus should be offered sannyas to preach, but their knowledge is practically nil. So also, this brings to mind this whole discussion about whether Vaishnavis can be gurus. So some people think that only people who inhabit male bodies can be gurus. Well, I got news for you. We don't think that men or women should become gurus. None of those entities. Only Vaishnavas or Vaishnavis. That's it. Because if someone thinks they're the body, then they are not qualified. That's it. If someone thinks, I can become a guru because I'm a man, then you cannot become a guru because you are on the bodily concept of life, you rascal. Sorry. Without sannyasis, the preaching work will be impeded. Therefore, under the instruction of Lord Caitanya with the blessings of his associates, there should be no discrimination in this matter, but people in all parts of the world should be trained to preach and given sannyasa so that the cult of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Sankirtan movement will expand boundlessly. We do not care about the criticism of fools. We shall go on with our work and simply depend on the blessings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates, the Panchatattva. So thank God nobody asked me the question of what about women taking sannyas. So don't ask that question. So, but women can take sannyas in an internal sense, because the internal sense is the important thing. The only reason for the external sannyas, the only reason for the external sannyas is because in certain cultures it attracts people. That's why. That's the only reason. Otherwise, there's no difference between the different types of dhotis you wear. Why do you think that if you get rid of the kacha means the tail, on your dhoti, that makes you a sannyasi? That's stupid. What makes you a sannyasi, or you shave your head, that makes you, well, brahmacharis shave their heads too, or you carry a little danda. Actually, I just show you all my danda. Hold on a second. Hey, camera's not following me. Okay, camera, follow. Okay. So, here's my danda. Sannyasi. No, no sannyasi. Okay, so, little humor here. So, anyway, so that's not a sannyasi. A sannyasi is not someone who lights no fire or does any stupid thing. Well, doesn't do stupid things, obviously. But a sannyasi is one who preaches Krishna consciousness, devoted his whole life. And so, a woman can be sannyasi in that sense, and men can be sannyasi in that sense, and there's no need to change one's dress. The only time changing one's dress is necessary or useful is when it will bring more people. That's all. I mean, if I thought I could bring more people to Krishna consciousness by dressing up like Darth Vader, I would dress up like Darth Vader. It's just a preaching tool. It has nothing to do with reality except for the internal mood of being a sannyasi. Okay, try to remember that. That's why I preempted the question that someone might have asked. Madhurate Pataila Rupa Sanatan Dvisena Pati Kaila Bhakti Pracharan. Lord Chaitanya dispatched the two generals. Actually, the name for general is Senapati. That means conquering general. Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami to Vrindavan to preach the Bhakti cult. Also, Lord Nityananda predicted that there would be a Senapati, conquering general, who would come later on, and he would take Krishna consciousness all over the world, in every town and village. The holy name would be chanted, and that person was His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. So, purport. When Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami went to Vrindavan, there was not a single temple, but by their preaching, they were gradually able to construct various temples. And we talked about this yesterday. Yesterday, we told the story about the Madan Mohan temple. Sanatana Goswami constructed the Madan Mohan temple, and Rupa Goswami constructed the Govindaji temple. Actually, Govindaji was discovered. He was under the ground, being protected from the Muslim invaders. And there was a cow that every day was dropping milk right above where he was buried. And that's how Rupa Goswami found him, Govindaji. And of course, Govindaji is now in Jaipur because Vrindavan was attacked again. As are many of the deities, many of the deities were actually taken out of Vrindavan to protect them from the Muslim invasion. Similarly, their nephew, Jiva Goswami, constructed the Radha Damodar temple Sri Gopal Bhatta Goswami constructed the Radharaman temple. Sri Lokanath Goswami constructed the Gokulananda temple. And Shyamananda Goswami constructed the Shama Sundara temple. In this way, many temples were gradually constructed. For preaching, construction of temples is also necessary. The Goswamis not only engaged in writing books, but also constructed temples because both are needed for preaching work. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu wanted the cult of his Sankirtan movement to spread all over the world. Now that the International Society of Krishna Consciousness has taken up this task of preaching the cult of Lord Chaitanya, its members should not only construct temples in every town and village of the globe, but also distribute books that have already been written and further increase the number of books. Both distribution of books and construction of temples must continue side by side in parallel lines. Nityananda Goshane, Pothaila Godadeshe, Teno Bhakti Cha Prachila, Ashesha Visheshe. As Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami were sent toward Mathura, so Nityananda Prabhu was sent to Bengal to preach extensively the cult of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So, of course, Lord Nityananda was with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Jagannath Puri, and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, go to Bengal and stay in Bengal. Don't come back every year to Jagannath Puri. But Nityananda disobeyed him, and he came back every year to see Lord Chaitanya for 4 months. The name of Lord Nityananda is very famous in Bengal. Of course, anyone who knows Lord Nityananda knows Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also. But there are some misguided devotees who stress the importance of Lord Nityananda more than that of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And actually, there are groups like that, offshoots of the Krishna consciousness movement, where they just go chanting Nitai, 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 Nitai. I mean, it's good to chant Nitai, Nitai, and Gauranga. Actually, we have one devotee who, in order to preach, she would dress up as a clown. And she would say to people, I have 2 friends. One's name is Nitai, and the other one's name is Gauranga. So you can't separate them. Nitai, Gauranga. Not just Nitai and not just Gauranga. And in the beginning, we read in the Chaitanya Charitamrta that if one has faith or one worships one without the other, it's like half a hen logic. It's better to be a complete atheist. This is not good. Nor should Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu be stressed more than Lord Nityananda. The author of the Chaitanya Charitamrta, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, left his home because of his brothers, stressing the importance of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu over that of Nityananda Prabhu. Actually, one should offer respect to the Panchatattva without such foolish discrimination, not considering Nityananda Prabhu to be greater, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to be greater, or Dvaita Prabhu to be greater. The respect should be offered equally. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadha, Shivasadi Gaura, Bhakta Vrinda. All devotees of Lord Chaitanya or Nityananda are worshipable persons. Wonderful. Apane Dakshina Desha Karila Gamana, Grame Grame Kaila Krishna Nama Pracharana. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally went to South India and he broadcast the holy name of Lord Krishna in every village and town. Setu Banda Paryanta Kaila Bhaktira Prachara Krishna Prema Diya Kaila Sabara Nishtara. Thus the Lord went to the southernmost tip of the Indian peninsula known as Setu Banda. It means the bridge across. I'll explain that in a second. Everywhere he distributed the bhakti cult and love of Krishna, and in this way he delivered everyone. So in Setu Banda, that's where the bridge was constructed. That's what the bridge means anyway, or Setu Banda means. The bridge was connected between India and Lanka, or Ceylon, Sri Lanka, whatever you say. And Sri Lanka, Ceylon, Lanka, was where our friend, our good buddy Ravana resided. And Ravana kidnapped Sita Devi. And that bridge was constructed by a bunch of simians. If you don't know what a simian is, in this case, it's like Kimpurusha, like half monkey, half man. And this bridge was constructed with stones that floated on the water because on the side of the stones was written the name Sri Ram, Sri Ram, Sri Ram. They didn't write the name on top of the stones because they didn't want to step on the name of Ram. So anyway, and that bridge is seen today when the scientists looked at the bridge from outer space, from their satellites, the satellite imagery. They saw there was a man-made bridge, or monkey-made bridge, or a simian-made bridge, or a Kimpurusha-made bridge. That was artificial. And that is Lord Ramchandra's bridge, or the remnants of Lord Ramchandra's bridge. So that's called Setu Panda. Setu Panda. I remember making that bridge. That's a joke. Eta kahila pancha tatvera vyakyana. Ihara shravane haya Caitanya tattva gyana. I have thus explained the truth of the Panchatattva. One who hears this explanation increases in knowledge of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. The Panchatattva is a very important factor in understanding Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. There are sahajas who, not knowing the importance of the Panchatattva, concoct their own slogans such as Bhaja Nidai Gaur Radhe Sham Japa Hare Krishna Hare Ram, or Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Hare Krishna Hare Ram, Shri Radhe Govinda. Bogus mantras. And some of those mantras were composed by an incarnation of Shukracharya, who is opposed to the worship of Vishnu or Krishna. Such chants may be good poetry, but they cannot help us to go forward in devotional service. In such chants, there are also many discrepancies which need not be discussed here. Strictly speaking, when chanting the names of the Panchatattva, one should fully offer his obeisances. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. By such chanting, one is blessed with the competency to chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra without offense. When chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, one should also chant it fully. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Also, Prabhupada said it's all right to start with Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Because you end up in the same place. Devotees asked Prabhupada that one time, but it's the same thing. Because you're chanting 108 mantras on your beads, is going to end up exactly the same. One should not foolishly adopt any of the slogans concocted by imaginative devotees. If one actually wants to derive the effects of chanting, one must strictly follow the great acharyas. This is confirmed in the Mahabharata. Mahajaniyena Gatha Sapantaha. The real path of progress is that which is traversed by great acharyas and authorities. Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Dvaita Tina Jana Shivasa Gadadhar Ariyata Bhakta Gana. While chanting the Panchatattva Mahamantra, one must chant the names of Shri Chaitanya, Nityananda, Advaita, Gadadhar, and Shivas with their many devotees, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. This is the process. Sabhaktara Pada Padme Koti Namaskara Yaiche Taiche Kagi Kitchu Chaitanya Vihara. I again and again offer my obeisances unto the Panchatattva. Thus, I think that I will be able to describe something about the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So we're getting ready to end the chapter. This is the way each chapter ends. Shri Rupa Raghunatha Pade Yara Asha Chaitanya Charitamrta Kahe Krishna Das. Praying at the lotus feet of Shri Rupa and Shri Raghunath. That's Rupa Goswami and Raghunath Das Goswami. Always desiring their mercy, I, Krishnadas, narrate Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita following in their footsteps. So Prabhupada explains that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to preach the Sankirtan movement of love of Krishna throughout the entire world. Ooh. Someone always manages to call me in the middle. Wait a second. Okay, let's go back. I should keep my phone off. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to preach the Sankirtan movement of love of Krishna throughout the entire world, and therefore, during his presence, he inspired the Sankirtan movement. Specifically, he sent Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami to Vrindavan and Nityananda to Bengal, and personally went to South India. In this way, he kindly left the task of preaching his cult and the rest of the world to the International Society of Krishna Consciousness. That's us, Prabhus. The members of this society must always remember that if they stick to the regulative principles and preach sincerely according to the instructions of the Acharyas, surely they will have the profound blessings of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and their preaching work will be successful everywhere throughout the world. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports to Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Lila, 7th chapter, describing Lord Chaitanya in 5 features. Wow. That's amazing. We finished the chapter. Let me see, the last verse number is, give me 1 second, 171. That's for my YouTube channel. I just have to list how many verses we did. 171. Let's write that down. 71. And then we go to 8. Okay, so let's start. 8. The author receives the orders of Krishna and Guru. This is an exciting chapter. Actually, every chapter is exciting. Let's go. The 8th chapter of the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita is summarized by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. It is Amrita Prabhaha Bhasha. In this chapter, the glories of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are described, and Nityananda are described, and it is also stated that one who commits offenses in chanting the Hare Krishna mantra does not achieve love of Godhead even after chanting for many years. In this connection, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur warns against artificial displays of the bodily symptoms called Ashta Sattvika Vikara. Vikara means transformations. Ashta means 8. Sattvika refers to the ecstasies. Ashta Sattvika Bhavas, the transformations of the body, like shivering and crying. That's from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, 14th, Ancha 14, text 99. That is also an offense. One should seriously and sincerely continue to chant the Panchatattva names Shri Krishna, Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shidwaita Gadadhar, Srivasadi Gaur, Bhaktivinoda. All these acharyas will bestow their causeless mercy upon a devotee and gradually purify his heart. I need the mercy. When he is actually purified, automatically he will experience ecstasy in chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Previous to the composition of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur wrote a book called the Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat. Only those subjects which were not discussed by Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur and his Chaitanya Bhagavat have been taken up by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami to be depicted in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. In his very old age, and we mentioned he was like close to 80, and he was blind and lame, and he was able to compose this most amazing book of poetry. In his and philosophy and pastimes. In his very old age, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami went to Vrindavan, and by the order of Sri Madan Mohanji, he wrote Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. Thus, we are now able to relish its transcendental bliss. Wow. So we'll start this chapter. Text 1. Vande Chaitanya Devam Tam Bhagavantam Yadichya Prasabam Nart yate chitram lekorange jadopiyam. I offer my respects to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, by whose desire I become like a dancing dog and suddenly taken to the writing of the Sri Chaitanya Caritamrta, although I am a fool. And you see, he's not a fool. He's so educated. I mean, he's writing poetry for the whole Chaitanya Charitamrita, and some is in Sanskrit, some is in Bengali poetry, and the philosophy is amazing. Amazing. I'm real kavis. I mean, poets. That's one of the qualities of a pure Vaishnava. He's a poet. And just like you see, for example, the Ramayana written by Valmiki is just like beautiful Sanskrit poetry, rhyming, keeping to the same meter. Wow. And telling this most amazing story about Lord Ramchandra, the incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So text 2. Jaya Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Gaura Chandra, Jaya Jaya Paramananda Jaya Nityananda. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is known as Gaura Sundara, means beautiful golden one. Why was he golden? Because he's in the mood of Srimati Radharani, who is known as Gaurangi. I also offer my respectful obeisances unto Nityananda Prabhu, who is always very joyful. And that's what the word Nityananda means. Nitya means always, Ananda means blissful, joyful. Jaya Jaya Dvaitacharya Kripa Maya Jaya Jaya Gadadhara Pandita Mahashaya. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto Advaitacharya, who is very merciful, and also to that great personality, Gadadhara Pandit, the learned scholar. Jaya Jaya Shivasari Yata Bhaktagana Pranatahaya Vandan Sabara Charana. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto Srivasa Thakur and all the other devotees of the Lord. I fall down to offer them respect. I worship their lotus feet. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami teaches us first to offer respect to the Panchatattva, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu, Advaita Prabhu, Gadadhar Prabhu, and Srivas Prabhu, and other devotees. We must strictly follow the principle of offering our respects to the Panchatattva as summarized in the mantra Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. At the beginning of every function and preaching, especially before chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We must chant the Panchatattva's names and offer our respect to them. Very important. Mukha kavitva kareyan savara smarane Pangu giri lange handadeke taragane. By remembering the lotus feet of the Panchatattva, a dumb man can become a poet. A lame man can cross mountains. And a blind man can see the stars in the sky. Wow. In Vaishnava philosophy, there are 3 ways of perfection, namely sadhana siddhi. That is perfection attained by executing devotional service according to the rules and regulations. And that's what most of us are doing. Nitya siddha, eternal perfection attained by never forgetting Krishna at any time. Well, very few of us are on that platform. Nitya siddha means you came down from the spiritual world to carry out one of Lord Chaitanya or Lord Krishna's missions on this earth planet. So haven't met many Nitya siddhas, met Prabhupada, maybe some others, but not too many. That is eternal perfection attained by never forgetting Krishna at any time. And Kripa Siddha, perfection attained by the mercy of the spiritual master or another Vaishnava. Wow. And so we actually have a combination of sadhana siddha and Kripa Siddha. So Kripa Siddha Prabhupada compared to someone who gets an honorary degree from the university without having attended the classes just because they're so qualified. An honorary doctorate. They do that sometimes. But of course, some universities give honorary doctorates to stupid politicians just because they want to get money. But we're not interested in that. So we want the kripa, or the mercy of the pure devotees, and that's why we follow sadhana siddha. So it's a combination of the two. Kaviraj Goswami here stresses kripa siddha, perfection by the mercy of superior authorities. This mercy does not depend upon the qualifications of a devotee. Wow! By such mercy, even if a devotee is dumb, he can speak or write to glorify the Lord splendidly. Even if lame, he can cross mountains. And even if blind, he can see the stars in the sky. So there's no prerequisite. As the Bhagavatam says, ahaituki apretiyatad. There's no cause, no material cause. So therefore, the people who say that women can't be gurus, they're arguing against what Prabhupada says, against what Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says. Because if one gets kripa, the mercy of a pure devotee, especially the mercy of Prabhupada, then a lame man can walk. A dumb man can compose poetry. It's all based on compassion, mercy of the pure devotee. Anything is possible. And sometimes describe a dog can swim in ocean. Or a man can climb a mountain. There's no prerequisite. Because within the order of the guru is contained the success potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Remember that when the order of Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada, within the order of Caitanya Mahaprabhu, Lord Nityananda, the success potency is there. And you're thinking you can't do it? Prabhupada said, impossible is a word in a fool's dictionary. So if you have a fool's dictionary, let's say you're a little kid and you have your first grade dictionary, that's your problem, not mine. E sabha namane ye pandita sakala ta sabara vidya pata beka kolahala. Actually, let me backtrack a little bit. In order to be able to do miracles under the guidance of one's acharya, one has to really fix one's vision or one's purpose. And one has to be pure-hearted too, like Srila Prabhupada. The education cultivated by so-called learned scholars who do not believe these statements of Sri Caitanya Caritamrta is like the tumultuous croaking of frogs. So people who say that someone cannot preach and become guru because of their body, even though they've been ordered to do that by their guru, then that person who says such a thing is imitating the croaking of frogs. And tumultuous means loud croaking. Anybody who's been around a lot of frogs knows what this means. Sometimes we live somewhere where there's a pond nearby in the spring, and the frogs, that's their mating season before they have all the little baby tadpoles, and it's tumultuous. You can't sleep at night. And sometimes you have these animals that come out every few years, and then they create such a tumultuous sound. This is one of those years in North Carolina. The croaking of the frogs in the rainy season resounds very loudly in the forest, with the result that snakes, hearing the croaking in the darkness, approach the frogs and swallow them. Similarly, the so-called educational vibrations of the tongues of university professors who do not have spiritual knowledge is like the croaking of frogs. And actually the word croaking can also mean dying. Like we say, someone croaked. Means that someone dies. Actually, so we went up to text 6. Okay, let me just mark this down. Okay, now we can take some questions by all the nice devotees. Let me allow you to ask your questions. Give me 1 second so we can unmute you. It's interesting. I mean, I really like that statement by Prabhupada. It's like the croaking of frogs. People who think that devotees from whatever their background can't be empowered, can't be given mercy, then their speech is like the croaking of frogs. It's like, I'll give you an imitation of the frog. Rivet, 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 rivet. That's what it sounds like. All right, so who wants to rivet first? Question. Not Pran Govinda, he has. Let's give someone else an opportunity.
Hare Krishna, Gurudev.
Oh, yeah. Rishikesh. So, what's up?
Gurudev, just I have a question about why is it so difficult to realize, actually realize that I'm not this body, for me at least. I know, I completely understand I'm not this body, but to have this realization is so difficult. Why is it like that? I mean,
Why? For several reasons. One is, let's take the negative side first, because you're attached to enjoying separately from Krishna. You were have been awarded that illusion because you didn't want to make Krishna the center. And so that Maya is very strong. That's one reason. And actually, to give a more positive reason, is you're not enough absorbed in Krishna and Krishna's service. Because there's only two things. There's Maya and Krishna. And the definition of Maya, I'll give two shlokas. Krishna Surya Sama Maya Haya Andakar. Maya is the absence of Krishna, just like darkness is the absence of light, or the absence of the sun. Krishna Surya Sama Maya Haya Andakar. Another one is Ritevatam na pratyeta chatmani tad vidyad atmano mayam yata basha yata tamaha. That Krishna's illusory energy, which is binding us to this material world, is defined as seeing things as not having connection with Krishna. We are trapped. Now, let me use a more modern example. We are trapped in a video game right now, Maya's video game. And we are not the characters in the video game. It's really interesting. This is called the simulation hypothesis. If you're interested in that, we can speak further on that at another time. But we're actually trapped, and we're attached to our characters in the video game. Just like I've seen sometimes young people, or even old people, they just sit around the computer all day long in this virtual simulated world, and they're so attached. They're thinking themselves to be that particular individual because they don't know that there is a real enjoyable world outside of the video game. They think because of experience. Actually, it's interesting, the video game example. They think because of their experience in this world, seeing their parents argue, seeing the financial problems in this world, that this world is miserable. So they enter into an illusion. So, in the same way, people think that the outside of this world, there is no enjoyment, that there's only whatever. There's only nothingness. Fear-based attachment. Yes, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about fear-based attachment. They're thinking that outside, so they enter into this world because they think everything else, if they're not into this world, if they have to confront the nothingness, then that makes them, nothing. Confronting the nothingness, which they think is reality, is called existentialism or nihilism. So they're afraid of confronting that, so they enter into the illusion because they think there's nothing else. Anyway, so the reason we're so attached to the body is because of our conditioning, because of our association with the modes of nature. Many different reasons. And ultimately because of our desire to emulate Krishna.
how do I undo this, Gurudev? How do I?
How do you undo it? That question, that's a $64,000 question or $64 million question. You undo it by the positive, being absorbed and thinking about Krishna's pleasure, chanting Krishna's names purely, Cheto Darpanam Arjanam Baba Mahad Bhakti Nirvapanam, and then ultimately you will wake up. Or it's like Lord Chaitanya says, or Thakur says, Jeev Jago, Gorachanda Bole. I mean, when we have dreams at night, we're really attached to what's happening in the dreams. I remember some dreams I was really attached to, and I was really upset when it ended. And I wanted to get back to sleep to continue with the dream. So, anyway, so the point is to wake up out of our dreaming condition. And once we wake up out of our dreaming condition, realize who we actually are, and we actually identify ourselves in terms of our service attitude towards Krishna, in terms of our spiritual identity, we're fully cognizant of our spiritual identity, then there's no more attachment to the material world. But it takes some time. It takes time because not only are we attached to this body, but we're attached to things connected to this body. Family members, country. Like if I were to say to you something, I mean, who's your favorite Indian, let's say, hero? Mahatma Gandhi?
No, no.
No. Let's take a hero, a mundane hero, someone who you've admired your whole life.
Subhash Chandra Bose.
Subhash Chandra Bose. Okay, probably actually liked him, but Subhash Chandra Bose. Let's say if I were to say something negative about him, something really nasty, you get upset because your attachment. So you see, the attachment to the body goes far beyond our personal body, and then of course, then we have expansions of the body, like wife, children, friends, family, everything like that. So it's very difficult to get out of this entanglement. It's called moha jala, a net of entanglement. And so, chindanti, one has to cut the web of entanglement by serving the Vaishnavas. Serving the Vaishnavas takes time. It takes time. I tell you, attachment to the body, every time someone feels pain, one thinks that's me, it's experiencing pain. It's a very strong attachment.
Yeah, especially the pain is so real. I mean, when it pains.
Yeah, Mama Maya Durachya. Anyway, so Krishna says, Mama Maya Durachya is very difficult, impossible to overcome because Maya is Krishna's energy. And the only way is Mama Eva Ye Prapajante, to actually become Krishna conscious. Right? As Krishna says in the Gita. And the way we do that, the best method is bringing other people to Krishna consciousness. Krishna says, the person is most dear to me who teaches this Bhagavad Gita. So if we bring other people to Krishna consciousness, then we have the realization. Action and knowledge brings realization. And then we can taste the eternal. And then we forget that we have a body. Just like when I'm sleeping, I forget about all the problems I have in the I don't want to say real world, but all the problems or whatever I have in managing the International Society of Krishna, all the Zoom conferences I have to attend. I don't dream about Zoom conferences generally. Thank God. That would be disaster. Zoom conferences all day and all night too. So it's a question of time, Rishikesh. One has to have faith in the process, and then gradually we become detached from this body. But we have to be attached to something else. We have to be attached to something, and that attachment to something has to be attachment to Krishna. And Krishna's devotees. Actually, Lord Kapila Dev says the very same attachment that binds one to this world, which is attachment to, let's say, others, that attachment. I just got a message from Gopal. It's funny. that attachment, sorry, I have to stop laughing. So that attachment to pure devotees can liberate one from this material world. The message Gopal sent is that I'm playing with a zip tie, and this is the same zip tie I used to tie him up the other day. So he got really upset with it. So I'll put it aside. I'm just playing with it.
Thank you, Gurudev.
So, who else has a question?
So it sounds like a devotee should be able to be immune from pain and they'll never experience physical pain because they're not attached to their body. Is that correct?
No. He will experience the pain but not identify it as pain. In the same way that I will be driving in my car, which hopefully you'll get me soon, my poor, but I will be driving in a car and I will see, well, now hopefully we won't see, but let's say if I'm driving my old car and I see a red light go on in the dashboard, because I'm not attached to that old car because I have a new car coming. Hey, this is a good example. This is actually a really good example. Let's say I'm attached to the, all right, sorry. I'm in an old car. Let's start again. Start 0. I'm attached to the old car and I see a red light comes on the dashboard and it says, your engine is finished. The oil has run out. The pistons have frozen. And if I'm attached, if I don't understand I have a new car waiting for me, then I'm going to be miserable. But now, if I see that in my car, because anyway, some of my devotees are getting a new car for me. That's the reason I'm talking about this. They're getting a Yugo. Anyway, I don't know what a Yugo is. Okay. They're getting a 1922 Volkswagen. So anyway, so some of the devotees are getting a new car. So I'm using this example. So if something happens to my old car, I'll just go, Hare Krishna. I can transmigrate and get a new car. And I have a new car coming. And my new car is spiritual. It doesn't run on gasoline like material cars do. How do you like that example? So, yes, I do experience the difficulty in the car, but it no longer causes me misery because I understand my actual identity, my actual car. In the same way, all right, if you don't understand that metaphor, I will be more clear. Because I understand I have a spiritual body, and I'm identifying with my spiritual body that doesn't run on gasoline. All right, let's be more specific. I'm identifying with my spiritual body that's not filled with stool, mucus, and urine. I mean, yeah, let's say you're walking around with a body now, and it's filled with all sorts of abominable substances. But it's all you think you got. That's all I have. You know, like I say, a pauper is attached to his penny. So all that I have is this body. You know, that's all I am, is this body. So if something happens to the body, then actually I was seeing a funny Hindi movie the other day. This is actually quite interesting. Like Gandhari, this is just one of the Hindi Mahabharats. Gandhari said, you know, I'm really happy to be marrying Dhritarashtra because when I get old and ugly, he won't see how old and ugly I am. Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure that was one of the reasons, but it was in the movie. So you ladies should marry someone who can't see. And that way you will always be attractive. So anyway, so that's hilarious. Anyway, so sorry about that. So the point is we're walking around with this body full of stool, and that's all I know is this body. That's it. And you say, you know, what would happen if you got rid of the body? I don't want to get rid of the body. It's everything to me. It's everything. But if I prove to the person, you have a body made of Sat Chit and Ananda, then the person's not disturbed. All right. So I get old, so I got a big nose. Just like when I was young, and all the girls in the school I went to, because they were all of a particular uh, genetic group, they all had big noses. I mean, their noses were actually, they were so big that if they turned around, they could give you a bruise. You had to be careful when they turned to look at you. Not, that's not literal, not figurative. So they all got nervous and they all disappeared at a certain stage. Sorry, my zip tie fell. I'm in too much ecstasy. So they all disappeared at a certain age and went for an operation and came back with small noses. And therefore their anxiety was dispelled because they had cute little noses. So if one knows, there's that word knows, K-N-O-W-S. If one knows that they have a nice spiritual body waiting for them, then even if mirror, mirror on the wall, I am not the most attractive sannyasi of them all, then it really is not that important. Right? It's just like, all right, so what? So what? The nose is too big. There's bags under the eyes. So what? I get a spiritual body. So anyway.
Well, one cannot perceive the spiritual body.
What's that?
One cannot perceive the spiritual body.
You can't or you can?
I cannot. I mean, see, if I'm seeing a new car waiting for me, then it will be easy for me. But I can't see. I can't.
That's a question of faith. Shastra Chakshush.
Okay.
That's the whole point. It's faith. Faith can move mountains. So if one has this faith, Yasha Devi Parabhakti Devi Tatakuru Tashaite Katitari Arata Prakashante Mahatma, one who has faith in the Vedic literatures, faith in a spiritual master, then everything becomes revealed. I mean, I know I have a spiritual body. I'm completely convinced that my real body is the spiritual body, and this thing that I'm walking around with is a bag of God knows what. So to answer Mayapur's questions, if you know you got something better coming, then yes, you'll be aware of what's happening with your old car. But it's only 4 to 8 weeks away, before before the new one arrives, Of course, in the material world, the new one is just material. The new body, that's reincarnation. In the next lifetime, we get just another material body. But the illusion we have of talking about cars right now, but the illusion we have is that when we get the new car, we're going to be happy. But it doesn't make us happy. That's a great illusion. Just like we think, every time I get a new computer, I think I'm going to be happy. It doesn't make me happy. It actually puts me in more anxiety changing bodies from one computer to another or changing programs. Actually, it's true. Actually, getting a new computer is just like changing bodies. It's excruciating because you got to transfer your mentality from one computer to another. It's like transferring your soul from one computer to another. Anyway, I think that's all we have time for, and Pran Govinda didn't have any time to ask a question today.
I have one question, Maharaj.
All right, quick.
Maharaj, I used to clean Srila Prabhupada's room in Mayapur, late 70s, and I remember Prabhupada had a Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's deity. And
Yes.
then when I came to Alachua, I found Prabhupada's letter to Mother Shama Priya Dhruva Maharaj that they should worship Mahaprabhu and Radha Krishna. No mention of Nityananda Prabhu. So it appears like that there is this partiality of Mahaprabhu's, even Prabhupada has.
No. Actually, Prabhupada is talking about Rasa Bas. Prabhupada also when there was the temple, the Mathura temple, Prabhupada donated the Mahaprabhu deity there. Because when you have Radha and Krishna on the altar, you can't have Gaur Nitai on the same altar because there's Rasa Bas. It's like you can't have Balaram near Radharani.
Hmm.
So many temples, including, what is the temple in Mathura called that Prabhupada took sannyas at? I forget right now.
Keshavji Gauri Amar.
Keshavi Gauri Math. Prabhupada donated the Mahaprabhu deity that's there.
Yes.
And so, because they only have room for Radha and Krishna there.
Hmm.
So if you have Radha and Krishna on the same altar, you cannot have Gaur Nitai. I mean, that's, what can I say? That's just Rasa Bas to have Lord Nityananda. I'd like to have Balaram near Radharani. Then you can have Caitanya Mahaprabhu, but then you have to have a picture of the Panchatattva on the altar at the same time. And if you look at, I believe, if I'm not wrong, the Radha Madhava altar in Mayapur, they have Lord Chaitanya deity there. And
Yes.
they don't have Lord Nityananda on the altar. Because it'd be Rasa Bas to have Lord Nityananda on the Radha Madhava altar. It's a question of conflicting rasas.
I see. I see.
So if you're going to have Gaur Nitai installed, they have to be on a completely separate temple. That doesn't mean a building, separate building, but on a separate altar. And that's just has to do with rasas and conflicting rasas. Just like you don't have Balaram, you cannot have Balaram on the same altar with Krishna, Radha and Krishna. Like in Vrindavan, you have Krishna Balaram and then another altar with Radha Shyam Sundar. Right?
Maharaj, in one lecture, I heard Prabhupada says, so Brajendra Nandan means Radha Krishna and Balaram.
Yes.
So, but they cannot be in one altar.
They're not on the same altar, but they're all in the same Vrindavan. Yeah.
Okay.
It's
Thank
just a
you.
question of rasa bas. It's a conflicting rasa. You know, there's friendship and there's conjugal love can't be connected.
Correct.
Whereas Chaitanya
Makes sense.
Mahaprabhu, he's in the mood of Radharani, so he's in the mood of conjugal love. He's in Radharani's mood, understanding Radha and Krishna. So it's fine to have him on the same altar.
Wonderful explanation. Thank you.
That's Prabhupada's explanation and Rupa Goswami's explanation. Okay, got to end. It's time for me to experience the threefold miseries. So all glories to His divine grace.